Welcome to Travel Market Life, your companion for industry insights and professional business development. Travel Market Life. Join us by webcast, video or podcast.
Hello and welcome to Travel Market Life. Now this is a slightly different edition because this is a pre-recorded roundtable discussion that we held at the ACE Hotel Tech Summit in September 2023, where we discussed Metaverse and hospitality. In the conversation today you will hear Angelika Krania, Sustainability Manager at Lamington Group, Robert Richardson, CEO of Institute of Hospitality, Harpreet Singh Saluja, Director of Central Operations AG Hotels Group, Catt Mcleod of Hotel Res and Resorts, the Director of Strategic Partnerships, Vidar Thomassen, the Director at Senio, and Harry Fielder, Chairman of a Hotel Marketing Association. Moderated by myself, Ryan Haynes.
Travel Market Life.
Travel Market Life is backed by Haynes Marcoms, a B2B marketing communications PR consultancy specialising in the technologies, travel, hospitality and property sectors. Create meaningful connections and visibility to grow. Haynes Marcoms cuts through the noise to resonate with target buyers, decision makers and influencers. From contextualising your mission to positioning your value proposition, Haynes Marcoms helps you address the issues that matter. Marketing, PR and social. Build profile, gain momentum, shape strategy with Haynes Marcoms.
Travel Market Life.
So, looking at the Metaverse in this session, so what we'll do is we'll take the opportunity really to hear from our panellists and their perspective on where they're viewing Metaverse right now and that opportunity for the hospitality industry. And then as we progress through the conversation, if anybody has any points that they'd like to contribute, then just keep your finger up, hand up a little bit, and I'll keep looking around the room just to bring your perspective in here. I mean, the Metaverse it sort of has been and around and been one of those key terms that we've been thinking about really alongside artificial intelligence and blockchain really for some time. Artificial intelligence as a product, AI as a concept has really sort of entered furore in the last 9 months with ChatGPT and really helped us really establish an understanding of how that could be utilized across many different industries and how it's already used within our own personal lives. I'm going to come to each of the panelists one by one to begin with, give me a chance to introduce you, and then we'll, open up into a wider conversation. So, Robert Richardson, the CEO of the Institute of Hospitality. So, from perspective of the Metaverse, what's your personal experience of working with it?
So, I've got two hats. My career was predominantly in hotels until I transitioned over to running the Institute 2 years ago. So, in hotels, we looked at the Metaverse for digital tourism. So we would bring people in to look at our rooms, look at the room types. Certainly from a conference banqueting point of view, it worked very, very well. So you could almost customize the space in the Metaverse. Moving to the Institute, I took over in lockdown, and with 15,000 members worldwide, it's really hard in normal circumstances to engage with them. So we started hosting 25 now a year virtual networking sessions, and those sessions range from panel discussions to full-blown conferences to a party at Christmas, and we bring people in from around the world. They've built quite a good following, to be fair, and equally it all plays into the sustainability remit that we have. So if you could join us virtually for a conference, you don't have to travel. That lowers the carbon footprint. So it's been a really useful tool. I don't think it's quite there yet, but equally, I don't think a lot of technologies are. They're emerging, but it's been a very positive process, certainly in terms of engagement, both commercially as a hotelier and as a head of a membership organisation.
Fantastic. I mean, as a hybrid there of your personal use, but also that use in industry. Because, I mean, Catt Mcleod, I mean, we were talking about this just a little bit earlier. Now, you're Director of Strategic Partnerships at Hotel Res and Hotels and Resorts. And you actually dived into the Metaverse also during the pandemic.
So we met at an event called Raise Up that was in the Metaverse. and I met some people there for the first time who have since become firm friends, and it was very interesting, similar to the Institute, to actually be able to meet remotely with people all over the world. One of our contacts was Paula, was in Brazil, for example. We've still not met face to face. So it's been very useful to learn about that. From a strategic partnerships perspective, we look at enabling our hoteliers to partner with different vendors in the space to meet their commercial strategy. So just as Steve Jobs was talking about the customer experience and the customer journey, we look at the hotelier's experience, the hotelier's journey, what their strategy is, and if the metaverse or gamification plays into the metaverse or not. If that's going to meet their commercial goals, then we look at partners to work in it.
Now, Harpreet Singh, from the Director of Central Operations, AG Hotels Group. So how have you been talking about this within the business and in hospitality at AG?
I think we looked at in a way that I think loyalty is something which we are building as a brand, buying new hotels. And we want to build our own brand as well. So something we want to create in future is showcasing our hotels available to people and making that loyal customer direct base to us rather than through OTA. That's the biggest topic or biggest expense any hotelier has got these days is OTA commission. So converting that client direct to your hotel, building that loyalty into your hotel chain, and again, other hotel chains which are available in marketplace. Can you build your own brand? If you've got 30 odd hotels, can you build your own brand? So it gives you a opportunity to do so.
Fascinating. I mean, to be able to look that a little bit further ahead as well to identify that wider strategy. And Angelika Krania, Sustainability Manager at Lamington Group. Sustainability has already been mentioned on this panel. What is your perspective there on the metaverse?
I think that there is a lot of opportunity to create a community and educate and have a common goal, and we have a space where we can collaborate, but also get the feel of what sustainable feels like, and how it's not that different from what you've been experiencing so far. And also maybe it's more comfortable actually, because natural ventilation is so much like it feels more natural, like that mechanical service spaces. So I think it's a bit of a community, creating a community, and it's a bit of an educational piece and getting people with us on the journey as well, experiencing the brand and being with us.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's all about how do you experience hospitality even before you potentially step foot in hospitality.
Yeah.
Now, Harry Field, the chairman of Hotel Marketing Association, I mean, this is almost the first step for hoteliers, isn't it, to embrace that culture and the values of what guests can experience when they're on site.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing that everyone said thus far that has very much aligned with what the metaverse is that connection piece. I think a lot of it, the term metaverse, I feel, is often blended into things like virtual tours and experiencing a 3D tour on a website or something like that. And that's not what it is. But as with all like AI, you've got a lot of software, products out there who are saying, "Oh yeah, we're AI enabled," and it's like, is it though? I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and I think you've just got to slightly look past the sheen of, oh, it's a virtual tour, therefore it's the metaverse. That's not correct. And the points at which these guys were talking about it was that connection bit, right? Are we connecting with other people in an open world, in a world that we can all collectively experience that is virtual? Now, if first of all, I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities, but I also think there's a lot of areas where it's not appropriate as well. And at the moment, given the penetration of one's ability to interact with stuff virtually through virtual reality headsets and in real time and in a real enough way, I can see more drawbacks than I can see opportunities right now, because the technology is just so, the penetration of tech and hardware in particular is just not there. So I just got to be super clear that we're considering the metaverse as an open world where individuals can interact together in a virtual space. This is not virtual tours, and I think we might get onto like the sales process and the booking journey and things like that, which is great. And you can book things in VR, you can have overlays over virtual tours, and you can interact with a room and an experience virtually. Is that metaverse? I don't know.
Absolutely. I think we're going to certainly be extrapolating a lot of that as we go through. Let me just introduce our final panelist. It's Vidar Thomassen, the director at Senia. Where are you viewing the metaverse currently, particularly in relation to sort of the management of the hotel?
So we are a manufacturer and a service provider, and we make actually hardware. So some of this is, of course, not that related to us. And I have to say, I do agree with the last panel that there is an awful lot of smoke and mirrors out there. However, we are also a company who are present in over 110 countries. So it can be useful for us to engage with our distributors and customers all around the world, and not sending our commercial director over there to all those 110 countries with the impact that has on CO2 emission and so on and so forth. On there, I see a use for us, certainly. There are other bits of this and the headsets and this, the other which I'm highly skeptical to. Sorry.
I mean, no, not at all. I mean, I think that's the whole point. Is why we're having this conversation. I mean, there's no point in sort of like laying a path and expecting everybody to follow. We need to be able to dissect this and understand: is it right for the industry? Is it right for different types of hotels and different types of brands? Now, if we look at sort of like what is metaverse, and we were having this conversation just a little bit earlier with Harpreet and Catt and myself, as you say. What is it? Is it the software, the system, the hardware? Are we looking at virtual reality, augmented reality, or is the metaverse this completely different thing altogether? There's been a lot, I guess, of talk around sort of, if you say, the virtual experiences, which you mentioned. One of the points that we also talked about was augmented reality, which seems to be a way that some hoteliers, I think it's a Harpreet Premier or something, they've got maps in their rooms and they come alive when you've got your camera, your phone camera looking at it. Is that perhaps a step in a direction, or where do you see the best investment for hoteliers to be really thinking about this at the moment?
Okay, so two parts of that. One is what's the best investment, I think, at this stage. The other bit, which will be, is that the metaverse? I think the way I've always viewed it is effectively a virtual open world that people can connect in. And if we look at the hardware and the technical mechanisms by which people do that, virtual reality headsets, VR, it's real-time communications, obviously, which is not new. There are ways to access something that is conceptually a virtual open world where people could connect. Now, if we look at individual things like VR, augmented reality, this kind of stuff, for me, that's not metaverse. They're just great tools to enable all sorts of parts of the customer journey. I don't think that's necessarily metaverse. It's in the same way that we used to have newspapers in a room. Now we have TVs, and now we can have something even more interactive. It's progressive there. Is that open world? Is that metaverse? I don't know. No, but I think the gradual overlay of technology over real life is that's super exciting. I think people should be investing in how to enhance that physical experience first. I think the metaverse concept of, are we as a society ready to treat connecting in a virtual world in the same way as connecting in the real world? No, I think COVID taught us that there is still very much an industry for physical experiences. People were nervous at one stage going, we're having a pub quiz on Zoom now. What's the point in going for a pub quiz in person? I think everyone can agree that a pub quiz I'm not a bit of a pub quiz person. I'm not actually a pub quiz person. And so I think you kind of got to look park the metaverse smoke and mirrors and start thinking about, okay, well, what are the components that have been raised to the surface, the technologies that have been raised to the surface by the concept of metaverse and this boom of everyone's chatting about metaverse, things like AR and augmented reality and all this kind of stuff, and look at how that can enhance the physical experience to start with. And I do think that will stand you in good stead when we get to a point where, as a society, we are much more ready to engage in an open virtual world?
Yeah, you could potentially all be left behind, because we're already seeing hotels, big brands invest in the metaverse, take a stake a claim, and you, Harpreet, was saying about looking that far forward. How far are your budgets stretching right now to be able to buy a bit of land in the metaverse?
Land is far thought of, but at the moment we're looking at, I think Metaport we discussed is something we've looked at, is putting that investment into all our hotels. Is it worth doing that investment? I think it is worth, because people will start booking your rooms, looking at how they look like, will become more confident about it. In terms of buying the land, I think it's far out there just now.
So Matterport, if anybody's not familiar with, it's a camera technology that's able to take in a full 360 of a room, and therefore you'll be able to experience any physical space remotely, virtually. So it's something you're currently looking at.
And then I think there was an example of Citizen M Hotel. I don't know if everyone's aware of it. They have done their first hotel in Metaverse, where an avatar can sleep, where you can understand what's happening in the hotel. So something, a live example is there to learn from. If it's working, how is their revenue growing? Is it actually helping people? So I think those are the examples we are looking at just now. And plus, as I said, loyalty is something which we are actually considering to build in those kind of world in which will help us to grow.
Is it a subject matter, though, Robert, for your members? How prominent is it compared to everything else that's happening in the world?
I think there's an education piece. So we've already sat round here for the last 10 minutes talking about what is and what is not the metaverse. And I'd argue that the majority of our customers or our members or our business don't actually know any more than we do. So you could turn around and say, we looked at something at my last hotel and we had 2 golf courses. And we thought there was a revenue opportunity for effectively virtual golf. And it was sold as being part of the metaverse. And no, it's not part of the metaverse. It's a golf video game with a background of your property. So I think it's really easy for people to put a big label on something and say, that's the metaverse. But the education behind it isn't there. So I think if you look at the metaverse as a product, it's a product that needs a lot more penetration in people's mindsets before you've actually got something distilled and pure out of it.
It is a good question. It is a good point, because I mean, artificial intelligence is the same thing. It's algorithms. It's not pure intelligence we're dealing with right now. People are still sat in a room writing algorithms, writing models in order for it to work. To try at some point that it becomes self-learning.
It's AI. Is an AI chat box self-learning part of the metaverse? In fairness, no, it isn't. It is, you ask a question, it goes A or B. You go to the next question, A, B, or C. It's effectively algorithms and choices. It's not learning, and it's not bringing people together. It's just a digital program. But again, it's AI, so it must be the metaverse.
Now, when it comes to the booking system, we've touched on that briefly here at the moment, and obviously, Booking Engine is sort of like where you work within Hotel Res as well. Hotelverse has sort of come out into the field the last couple of years, claiming to sort of deliver this sort of metaverse experience. How realistic do you think it is that guests will actually put on a headset, go to a hotel before making a booking in our current world?
How realistic do I think it is? There will be. My daughter lives online now. Too many hours. And I think there are upcoming generations. Are they the decision maker bookers yet? Perhaps getting there. But I think there's other things that we can focus on as hoteliers before going down the augmented reality or the metaverse flow, because you have to look at the return on investment in the short term and the long term. And for any independent property or group, it's too complex unless you empower somebody on the property. Maybe you've got somebody who's passionate about technology, and you say, right, I want you to spend 10% of your time on special creative projects, look into the metaverse, look into all of these amazing things. Then maybe that's a mechanism for engaging that member of staff, but also for experimenting with this. But the bulk of the business, the bulk of the commercial efforts has to be in what exists today and what's going to generate that short-term, medium and long-term return on investment.
Angelika, I mean, you did a lot of work with the Langton Group around sustainability. Now, when it comes to the metaverse, sort of like, where is sort of Langton Group's current sort of like perspective on that, and how would you sort of look at researching and identifying what the opportunities are? Because you quite clearly showed through sustainability that there were smart, achievable goals.
To sort of add a bit to the previous point, like I think that as technology gets cheaper, it's going to be a lot more like around us. When a headset now costs £500, your average guest is not going to have that headset and it's not going to be using any technology or any environment you might create. So that's big to that. So I think that in the future we're going to have the coming generations are going to be definitely a lot more invested in it than us. My personal view is that it can never substitute the physical experience, but it can definitely give you that carrot for you to be there. Like, oh, it looks amazing. It must feel amazing. In terms of sustainability, the conversation we'll be having around the metaverse and AI and technologies in general, this type of technologies in general, is how can we engage our guests and like the community that we have created, and how can we educate them, and how can we sort of bring them up to speed with sustainability, and what does it look like within their space. So there's we have a project that we do a bit of research at the moment, and it's all about that. How do we engage? How do you experience the space? How do you experience the space in a future climate as well? And that's quite important, because if you're building a climate resilient asset, then maybe you want to look at that outside of your window and see what happens if there's a hurricane coming. So it's a bit of a gamification and education piece, a lot more interactive, but I don't think that I would see the metaverse within the physical space of the hotel. It's either before or after. And I would never, I think that none of us here would say, let's substitute the physical experience.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the points, isn't it? Because hospitality is so much about that personal, physical experience, that service that we want to deliver to our guests. And what's the point if they're just sat in their own homes and seeing that, although ready stay.
I think it is a bit of a carrot though. Like, you see a fluffy towel and you're like, I want to touch the fluffy towel, and I want to smell if it smells nice, and I want to touch the bed and like it looks fluffy. Like it's about like TV basically. Like, you see something you wanted, so.
And talking about that, yes, that's a good point, because I mean, traditionally adoption of technology in hospitality has been particularly slow. There are many issues that we have to deal with. I guess we can again, extrapolate that with around connectivity and integrations. But I mean, Senio has quite glitzy, glamoury technology there. How difficult is it to potentially sell technology like that, which actually it delivers quite a clear solution to a problem? And how distracted do you see some hoteliers by some of the technologies that are not even ready for implementation?
Well, so I did an event back in 2019 where we were talking of guest room automation and much of this technology, and everybody was shaking their head and didn't have a clue what we were talking about. Now everybody knows what we're talking about, and the elements which we try to take control over, which is sustainability, energy consumption, and all of these, and improving guest experience now are at the forefront. Of course, very much helped by the fact that energy prices have tripled or quadrupled in many cases. So that has helped us greatly. There's no two ways about it. Coming back to the metaverse, in some terms, it can probably be useful on a design stage on a hotel, where you can actually use it to get the impression of what you are building and what you are, and as opposed to doing the hard way now, where you do a mock-up room or several of them, which of course not necessarily is the most sustainable thing in the world, because it is, it gets pulled down again, and so on and so forth. So it could potentially, when if it develops in the right direction, be a thing there.
Now, marketers are quite renowned for sort of grabbing something and running with it, particularly if it's shiny and fluffy. So is that a lot of conversation that they're having, or do you see them sort of really sort of ignoring the metaverse and focusing on different areas of the business?
Okay, so taking the virtual reality part of the metaverse we were talking, I think there are a lot of opportunities there, both partly from a pre-experience perspective, and yeah, as you said, that talent looks amazing, the view looks incredible. And I don't know if you remember the first time you put on a proper VR headset, an Oculus Rift or something. It is mind-blowingly cool the first time you do it. I see there's also huge potential on the nostalgia. So if you smell something, smell is an incredible sense when you smell something or you hear something that brings you right back to something, to a previous experience. I think VR has a huge amount of opportunity in that area, bringing people back and saying this is what you could experience, because VR is more immersive than a photo. It is more immersive than a video, and as a retention and a remarketing effort, I see that huge potential in it. Now, there's some amazing studies of putting VR headsets on, going into nursing homes, and taking someone back to where they had their honeymoon. Like the senses that it brings back, because it's physically there, engaging. It's putting the headset on and they're able to move around and look at things. It's so much more immersive than a photo, and it brings people to tears because it's that immersive. And I think when we're trying to get someone back, give them that feeling of where they were on holiday, that blending of physical and virtual space, I think has the power to enhance to really relive physical experiences, not perfectly, but in a much clearer way. So your brand and your experience can kind of live on a little bit further than just photos and video. Thing, I think that's interesting.
Is this something that you're looking at, more virtual experiences of some kind within your hotel brand?
Again, going back to Metaport is something similar, not to that degree of wearing a VR set. It doesn't need that. I think a screen can do the job just now. But yeah, something if as Angelika said, if the technology becomes cheaper, then it's usable, and that's where I think we had this discussion about the money in hospitality is limited. The money you spend on refurbing a room is more needed now than technology. So I think that's where we are spending money just now.
I don't think it will become cheaper. I think people are just going to launch fancy ones. Like you look at the new Apple VR headsets.
But you're going to get cheaper versions. Like you get the same way you get the iPhone, and then you get £400.
I think the adoption, like I never used to wear an iWatch. Now I can live without an iWatch. So the adoption becomes easier.
I think it'll get much cheaper than a few hundred quid. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Ready Player One, great film a few years ago. I mean, the whole body outfit, headset, you've got a track that you can run on. I mean, who knows what's possible? I mean, you've already seen sort of movies play true, so
I think people will be more accepting of paying higher prices over time. Yeah, because if you said someone's going to release £1,000 phone 10 years ago, they'd have shaken your head. But I think we'll be used to paying that money. It's not that I think they'll become super excessively cheap.
And the thing is, 10 years ago, a lot of hoteliers were buying devices for the hotel. They were buying iPads, and now it's just like, well, no, just give access to their own personal devices.
True.
So there has been that shift there. When it comes to sort of like revenue and finances for hotels, and I guess you can speak about your members on a global scale, where do you see the greatest level of investment going into virtual programs at the moment?
I think probably training, if I'm honest, training and professional development. There's no viable, I would say, market in 2023 for some form of metaverse virtual tourism. It's always nice to see what's going on, but when you're actually justifying it to your financial controller and your CEO, that would be the first question most of the term. In terms of training, if you've got a large portfolio, getting people on a digital platform versus having them travel is better. Equally, it breeds familiarization with other colleagues and other ways of doing things. So when we talk to people, that's where it goes, to training development, new ideas. You can do competitor set visits in a very nice way virtually now by the Metaverse. I say the Metaverse, Harry's looking at me like I've just blasphemed. But I think a lot more of what historically would be travel heavy is going to move over. And I think that's what people are more inclined to do.
Thank you. No, I'm just going to open up to anybody else that's out and around here. If they've got any questions or any points that they have, please feel free just to raise your hand. So we'll keep looking. Yes, Frank.
Got one. So to me, this whole metaverse, a virtual world where people can go together, that really sounds like a marketing hype, because I think that already existed and was called Second Life. And in there, the characters at least had legs. and I think it's a way of using new technology and commercialize it and bring it to a broader audience. And I don't see a higher value in it. And my prediction is I will not throw my money on it. And I see it coming and going. I think it is a brain fart.
I mean, I guess one of the things you were talking about this morning as well, though, is the technology there, not from a handset or hardware perspective, but from a back-end perspective for hotels. I mean, do we have the capability, the system capability, to be able to deploy such a large program?
Yeah, that's the thing. And us as hoteliers, should we at all promote or discuss a technology that is from this concept designed to replace our services in some way?
Talk about sustainability, because this is one thing that I find interesting in technology that is massively overlooked by any of us who deal with technology, is the cost of data. Because we talk about data being the new oil, which I believe it very much is. It's incredibly destructive, it's incredibly costly, and it uses a huge amount of energy. At the Langton Group, I mean, you talked about sustainability today. I haven't asked you that question yet, but I'm going to throw it at you right now. Is it a consideration about the sheer quantity of data and data processing that is in place?
So it is a bit of a balancing act, definitely, because the more data and the more environments we create, the more data centers we need to build, no? And data centers are very energy intense type of assets that comes from a previous experience in consultancy. So they're not very environmentally friendly, let's say that. But you can get quite creative with the data center because it produces so much heat. So if you're positioning it, you can actually use it to heat the whole down. So it really gets to the point of how creative we can be with this type of technology. So we cannot be having a tunnel vision, let's create a metaverse and host it somewhere that out of sight, out of mind. I think that there needs to be a bit of a link. Where is my data being stored? How is it being used? And what we have seen quite a lot is Amazon, Google, as well as Microsoft. They've been now very nicely putting at the bottom of their websites carbon neutral since, 2010 or something, which basically means they chucked a lot of money somewhere. But the reality of the situation is that with all the heavy reporting that is coming, all this is going to have to be transparently reported, and you're going to have to be, as a consumer or as a business, make an informed decision. So where am I hosting my platform, and where am I hosting my room? And that links back to sustainability and your goals in sustainability, because you will be calculating this as part of your emissions. So if you're hosting it in a very dirty data center, then that's going to affect your other bottom line, the carbon one.
When you're deploying servers now on Amazon Web Services or Google, it will actually allow you to select more carbon-friendly offerings, and they're mostly in Norway, hydroelectric power, linking to swimming pools. Their cooling runs through swimming pools and stuff like that. It's very cool. Yeah. There is, as you said, increasing transparency over, from an IT perspective. You can select those options now.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a left-field question at all. I mean, I think Metaverse, because of the amount of data that it will consume, we need as an industry to be really thinking about it. We're already talking about greenwashing being an issue for this industry as well. And
can I add one point?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just thought of something. Metaverse and blockchain have kind of been slightly smashed together in the sense, if you're going to create an open world and you're going to have genuine ownership over things in that open world, it has to be done via a ledger of sorts, and blockchain offers that. If you own your piece of land in a metaverse, that has to be yours, and that can't be taken by anyone else. So blockchain is they were kind of made very buzzwordy at the same time, blockchain and metaverse. Now, blockchain from an energy perspective is horrendous, like actually horrendous. If you look, I will find the stats after this. I'll tell you, and you can share it. But we're talking to do one transaction. You could like heat a house for a week. It is that bad. And so I think there's some interesting sustainability questions over there about sorting blockchain out in order to be ready for a metaverse that is actually sustainable.
And it's definitely our responsibility, I think, as those who are having these conversations in these sorts of environments, to make sure we are bringing up these conversations in every platform that we go to, because we can't be pushed down the stream or river to a destination where there's no turning back. I mean, Catt, you work with a lot of independent hotels. Now, I mean, we're talking about a huge level of investment. Is this fair for us to be, constantly talking about these big ideas?
I think there's a time and place for talking about the big ideas, and conferences like this are very much part of it. As a vendor, we have a duty to support our properties with where they are at, to meet them where they are at today, to work with the leaders like Room 2 that are a long way down there, for example, their sustainability route. Eccleston Square, that's a long way down this technology route. But if the hotel's not there yet, it's not fair to kind of be trying to shoehorn in the fancy, innovative things. We have to meet them where they are, their strategy, their return on investment that they are targeting for this period, and look after them.
Yeah, be a bit realistic.
Yes.
Absolutely, because you say, I mean, if you're mum and pop's family-run independent hotel, you can't be able to be able to grasp some of this. But if you're a big brand hotel, you say you've got someone who is just twiddling their thumbs, and they've got really nothing much to do, and you give them a little project, then it's a great project to have.
And I think we've built quite a nice hospitality tribe, hospitality family of different vendors, so that we can say, well, this is what's working for a hotel, this is what's working for another hotel. So if a property does want to look into it, then we can say, have a chat to a trusted partner.
Thank you. Any further questions before we? Yes, Jamal.
It's not a question. It's more than an opinion, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
From our perspective, hotels, there are two parts in this group: the development part and the operational part. So we get involved in the development part quite a lot with owners from the concept stage to the opening stage. So I think the metaverse, it will work in terms of convincing the owners of certain ideas. You can leave the idea, you can leave the property before actually you can see a light. And the most important one we found really useful in our industry, and especially in our part of the world. People want to get involved in every little detail of the property, especially the hotel owners, the small investors, rather than the bigger entities. They want to be involved in every single detail, every single color of the rooms. So the metaverse, I think, will be an exceptional tool to give them what they want, at the same time to convince them of certain direction and to take to and incorporate your brand within their idea. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and I know that Matterport, for example, is a great collaborative tool for doing exactly that, because you have the designers and the architects and the investors who are all able to tune in and see exactly how the project is developing. I think we're coming close to the end of wrapping this session up, but I'd like to sort of get some of your any additional viewpoints or perspectives that you might have to sort of round off the session today. I mean, Harry, you've got a lot of thoughts in and around this. Is there anything that you've been sort of mulling over during this conversation that you've not been able to get off your chest just yet?
No, I thought I got a few bits off my chest. But I think I don't think we're ready for a genuine adoption of an open world virtual space. But I do think there are elements that have been raised to the surface of the metaverse sort of boom that are incredibly powerful. Whether that's virtual tours, whether it's I think there's lots of opportunity in like events and wedding planning and all these sorts of things, all these hospitality things, and bridging that physical virtual barrier and divide slightly. But for me, metaverse is about connectivity in an open world in a world that is not the physical one. And I don't think we're ready on that part, but there are lots of amazing tools with it.
And Robert, I mean, obviously you've got these events that you're hosting.
I think I completely agree with Henry. The metaverse is about connectivity, so it enables us to connect with 15,000 members around the globe at no cost to the member, and it's fantastic that you build up an audience. So you go on these calls, and you've got people from Malaysia, America, Taiwan, all who are tuning into it, and it comes into the whole hospitality as a family. So it's a brilliant tool. But en masse, it's important that we have these conversations because I just don't think the world quite understands what it is yet, and I certainly don't. I've done some research and I'm still not quite there. But I think it's important that we keep using it, keep exploring new technology. New technology doesn't have to come with a high price tag. It certainly doesn't in this case. But as we go, we just need to take the scales away from people's eyes and show them exactly what it is and what it can do. And that's, I think, something the Institute's doing very, very well.
What you were saying is that earlier you were saying just someone can allocate a chunk of their time to just explore and test and pilot stuff without any strings, without any commercial obligation. I think that's a really good thing to do. And
obviously, Hotel Res is constantly sort of looking at new areas and avenues for hoteliers, and there's a lot. I mean, that market, the market itself has opened up a lot more, hasn't it, over the last few years, and certainly just from a perspective of how do you get to market and how do you market your property effectively.
So if we look at hospitality and the portfolio of hotels that we represent, we're very much embedded within the broader travel and tourism industry. And I think there's some exciting things happening within that broader travel and tourism space that 10% of allocated brain space can research and learn. I just continuously learn because I think that the pre-sale, the post-sale, the nostalgia, there are opportunities yet. We don't know what they are. So, yeah, allocating that 10% of time, but I think we should be doing that anyway. I mean, by allocating 10% of one's time to continued professional development and learning, that's certainly something we're working on.
Harpreet, I mean, is there anybody in your teams across your business that sort of comes up with all these interesting, innovative ideas that you listen to, or how do you sort of source of what might be coming next?
So I think our CEO is one of the technology freak, I call him, because he loves all this technology. So he wants to adopt everything, but at no cost. So that's one challenge you always have. Is he doesn't want to spend the money, but wants technology. So I think we are in talks of getting somebody who is, I think, probably a tech director of technology in our business soon. So that's the talk that we want to do, and we want to get that technology incorporated in our brand, in our future. So I think that's what the talks are. So it's very much happening and going on.
Angelika, any advice for sort of getting inspiration from what's happening in the industry?
I think it is very exciting, and there are very exciting times ahead. I think that it is and it will be very clunky. My background on computer engineering, so it's going to take decades before it gets to the point where it's smooth and pristine and like the price is there so that everyone can adopt it. Because otherwise, we just play with big players and then the rest of us don't have access. So I think that it's a bit of patience, and I think that businesses should engage with it when they have the capacity and not be discouraged to explore.
Thank you. And Vidar, our metaverse pessimist, any final thoughts you'd like to add?
I agree with the assumption that it can be a useful tool for connectivity, and for somebody, as I mentioned earlier, which is present in over 100 countries, and have hotels or projects all over the world. It can be quite useful. I also agree with the gentleman over there, and I think I mentioned it myself in conjunction with design and mock-up rooms and these kind of things that can be a useful tool. I also do believe that it's very easy to go down a blind alley and end up nowhere.
Excellent. Well, we'll bring that to an end today. Thank you very much to our panelists for their input and opinions today. Thank you.
For more, go to Travel Market Life. The music sensation by Zach Nelson is reproduced under license from Storyblocks. Travel Market Life is a Haynes Marcoms digital marketing agency production, serving the travel and technology industries.